Well, it all seems quiet on the Kent and Cornwall front, at least for the time being. Who knows? I might be literally starting my next video just be like, for 5 minutes, can you not do something? Anyway, today we're going back to Nottinghamshire because the last time we covered Nottinghamshire, as you may very well remember, they had come up with this grand plan, or at least Mick Barton and the reform crew there had come up with this grand plan that they were going to spend 75k on flags because this would improve community spirit. And roughly, I think it was something like £500 per flag. That's 75k of wasted money. I'm sure that the residents of Nottinghamshire are absolutely going to love that complete waste of money. Meanwhile, of course, it hasn't actually stopped there because this happened once again last week, but because of the fact that we had the absolute collapse of both Kent and Cornwall, they sort of took priority over this. However, here we are once again with Reform UK in Nottinghamshire wasting public money by keeping 2 council buildings open because they want to get staff back to work in their buildings, even though for the longest time they've proven that actually no, staff shockingly can work from home and are very efficient at working from home. But no, this is Reform UK who insist that working from home is absolutely awful and terrible, even though they themselves have hired people to work from home. Anyway, as always, before we go more into this, thank you very much for all the help and support that you guys do show the channel. If you are from Nottinghamshire, then please, of course, do leave your comments down below. I would love to know, of course, what you think about all this as well. And of course, there's the links down below, the Patreon page, the Buy Me a Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, the YouTube membership down below as well. This QR code up here will take you straight to the Patreon page as well. So thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel that way. Anyway, let's crack on then into this because once again, Reform UK wasting money on stuff that they already knew they were wasting money on, but insist that this is just the practical way to do it. Anyway, let's find out more about this, shall we? So, Reform UK now spending £500,000 to keep 2 Nottinghamshire County Council HQs running. So, Reform UK is now set to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds to keep 2 Nottinghamshire County Council headquarters running at the same time, in which the party now insists is a practical approach. The opposition, of course, at the council have now accused Reform of complete financial chaos as the party now prepares to spend £500,000 on upgrades to the aging county hall buildings while still, of course, holding meetings in a brand new headquarters just 10 miles away. Why are they even keeping these buildings? The whole point is people again don't know the whole background to this was these buildings were old. They built a brand new building, and the whole idea was that they were going to sell these off. These were old buildings; they needed doing up, but they could sell them off. Maybe they would get some money for them, or maybe they could repurpose them into something else. But of course, that didn't happen. Along comes Reform. Well, all these people, we've got all this office space. Time to get all these people back to work. So now they're spending hundreds of millions on these buildings, which they really didn't need to spend because they've already got a brand new building. Waste. But these people, of course, were the ones that claim that they weren't the ones who were the wasters. It was everyone else who was wasting, the good people of Nottinghamshire's taxpayers' money on random stuff like DEI and whatnot. But anyway, let's get back to this. So the iconic, of course, County Hall on the banks of the River Trent has, of course, served as Nottinghamshire County Council's main base since its construction back in the 1950s. But the Conservatives, of course, previously running the authority, decided to shift the headquarters now to Hucknall. Business plans were, of course, being drawn up by County Hall's future, and even possibly even floated and included a Nottingham Forest hotel. The 19 million Oak House, of course, building, therefore, has now served as the authority's new headquarters since May, where all remaining staff were eventually now set to vacate the previous West Bridgeford base. Yet, and this is what happened when Reform came in, yet Reform UK said shortly after taking control of the council back in May, it would then review all the authority's assets, and the party has now said it will spend £500,000 on vital upgrades to the county hall. Why? You don't need to keep it anymore. You literally don't need to keep it. All of this spending will, of course, including making sure that the county's fridges are functional and the building's toilets work properly. You don't need this anymore. It's not where people work anymore. They've got new buildings for this. This is unbelievable. But anyway, options, of course, will then be developed between now and, of course, of February 2026, looking at around a range of potential models for the county hall's future. You didn't even need to do all this because it was wasting spending money on it. With one of the primary objectives, of course, being that it, of course, remains a council headquarters. Reform, of course, says that keeping County Hall functional is, of course, very common sense, given, of course, upcoming plans for a huge shakeup of Nottinghamshire councils, which could see all the current ones currently abolished. Mick Barton, the council leader, oh, by the way, saying, oh, this building will be useful for LGR. Not one of the plans that I believe Mick Barton has put forward actually includes this county hall being used as part of the LGR plans. But any excuse for, wasting money. Mick Barton, the council leader, says that County Hall is, of course, likely to be a candidate now to serve as a headquarters for one of the new councils created. But which one? Which one? Councillor Mick Barton said that County Hall is, of course, a very iconic building and, of course, been the home of his council since the 1950s. With its very prominent location and good transport links, we know this building, of course, highly likely to be needed as a HQ for one of the new authorities when the time comes. So why isn't it being included in any of the plans? Anyway, it makes, of course, no sense to move out and sell this building as we prepare now for one of the biggest shakeups in local government in a generation. Bear in mind, Mick Barton's only been talking about this only very recently. This was not the case in what the stuff he was saying back in May. This is the new excuse to try and keep these buildings. What to use them for what? Who knows? But up until very recently, even in the new LGR plans, there was no mention of these council buildings being used. Or at least this council building being used. Anyway, he said we are now taking a practical approach by preparing for future needs of these new authorities. In the meanwhile, we do, of course, need to make sure that urgent repairs to the county hall can, of course, remain a functional building. The council, of course, has confirmed that continuing to operate County Hall will cost around 1.7 million overall. But that Oak House will, of course, still remain the headquarters for now. Given the need to operate Oak House alongside County Hall, the new site manager for the former will, of course, be appointed on a £34,000 salary. Councillor Sam Smith from the Conservatives said that, and Councillor Barton's predecessor, of course, at the council as well, said that this move shows that Reform are, of course, not keeping their promises to save taxpayers' money. He said Reform, of course, promised to make savings and then cut waste, but within months of taking charge, they've done the exact opposite. The 1.7 million annual savings in the budget has now vanished, and they are now spending hundreds of thousands more to keep a second building open. This isn't good financial management. It is complete chaos. He may be a Conservative, but I'll tell you what, I agree with him. You potentially had a lot of money to be saved by again, selling this off, repurposing it for, as we put forward, a hotel. You had £1.7 million worth of annual savings. But no, along come Reform. Oh no, we might need to keep this building. For what? Oh, there might be a new authority that might need to move into it. Okay, where was this in the LGR plans? Oh, that's right. It was nowhere in the LGR plans. Anyway, He continued to say, "We can, of course, debate the future of County Hall, and many of us, of course, do value its history and significance. But the fact, of course, remains that this decision completely contradicts everything reform claimed to stand for." Penny Goodwall, the leader of the Labour group of the County Council, did, of course, welcome reform's move and said that the problem was that the original decision made by the Conservatives in the first place. Oak House was, of course, originally set to be to house the council services like customer service centres, and of course the Conservatives later then decided to add a council chamber to it, with of course the party planning to flog County Hall off. Councillor Goodwall said that the problem, of course, with the original decision, which was inexplicable, was then rushed through, and then building up there of Oak House is, of course, not fit for purpose. The council chamber is just ridiculous. There is no other way to describe it. Councillors are talking to each other's backs, which you've again seen before. The County Hall is, of course, a civic centre that everyone knows. People can, of course, come and go to it very easily. It is under my opinion that I've got suggestions on that. There should be, of course, retained as a civic centre, and I'm at least pleased they're doing that now. The review, of course, taking place between now and February will also look at revenue and commercial opportunities for the surrounding land of County Hall. So we'll see. Someone else says here, you get the feeling that this lot are going to be far worse than the current lot are wasting our money. Someone else brings up £75,000 on a very divisive flag, £500,000 on a not fit for purpose 70-year-old building, while roads and schools and social provision are completely falling apart. They did claim, of course, to be part of efficiency, low tax and waste. Again, they can hardly criticise the Tory and Labour on that waste ever again. Someone said, fix the roads first. So, yeah. Again, I don't know why they're keeping this building open. For what purposes and reasons? It's now being used that, oh, this is going to house a new authority. Well, there was nowhere in the original plans for LGR that have been discussed for that to happen. Now, if this does end up being used by a new authority, I suppose, congratulations, but between now and then, that's a lot of money you are potentially wasting on a building that has been said by a lot of people is no longer fit for purpose. That you have to spend more money to keep it open than would ever be, used by just keeping it open normally under all the services. There were plans. You could have used it for something else. They could have turned it into something else. They could have even turned it into social housing, and used it as like flats. That would have been, a much better use for this. Have it a full conversion redone for it. But no, not the case. Not the case, as they say. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.